But if you say the Bible's corrupted, you're not a good Muslim. You're going against the Quran.
Well,
the Quran says again and again. The Quran says, well, you've got to find somewhere where the Quran says that our books are to be followed. Allah says our books are to be followed. So these are the books. So what you're saying is corrupted. How can you do that?
Well, we don't believe that what you've got in your pocket there is the original Torah and Injil.
Okay, so we have to go back to Muhammad's day, 7th century AD, right? Because he's there 590 to 632 or something like that. 570 to 632, sorry. At that time, we have a vast number of Bibles. The Byzantine Empire were cranking them out. The Bibles that were available in Muhammad's time, which were known by all Christians and Jews, were those Bibles we have today. We have those very Bibles. They're not like the first century documents. These are ones we still have. And we have their antecedents as well. And so we can say what Muhammad was referring to, or rather, what Allah was referring to. Now, if a Muslim wants to say, oh no, it wasn't those he was referring to, it's some other documents, show us. Because after all, if there were other documents that Allah's referring to or Muhammad was laying his hand upon, then there should be antecedents of those from the centuries prior to Muhammad. And there would be in the historical record. For 5 centuries, they would have been being cranked out. But there are none. So it means what I've got today, which is what they had in Byzantine, in the time of Muhammad, what I've got today is in my pocket. And I was reading to you. That's true according to Allah.
So you're saying, for example, like the codexes that we have, like the Codex
Sinaiticus, Vaticanus.
Right. The modern day Bibles, yeah, I know they pretty much match up. But we would say that those were corrupted in the years after, after Christ's coming, maybe a few hundred years later they would have been corrupted.
Right. But Muhammad, at his time, the Bibles that were there, if they were the corrupted Bibles, then that's amazing for Muhammad or Allah to say, this, I follow what the people of the book have. Follow your own books. Allah is saying, follow your own books. Then he's saying, follow corrupted books. Allah wouldn't say that.
Is there a hadith where he gets the Jews to swear upon the Torah or something?
I think it's in here anyway. He says, your books are for you to follow. And I think there's a hadith where Muhammad is, the Jews come to him and they want to get him to adjudicate on something. Yeah. And he says, he gets his hand on the Torah or something. Yeah. So it's the Torah that was available, that was knocked out by the Jews and by us. Yeah. It's like also, because we and the Jews were very antagonistic to one another, they were writing by hand their own Old Testament, and we were doing our copies. We were not friends. And we have the same Old Testaments. So when I read from Genesis, I'm reading from the same document that the Jews agree is right, and we agree are right.
Yeah, that's are you saying that the Masoretic text and the Septuagint would be in agreement?
Oh, they're not exactly in agreement, no. No, we go back, but the key point is, on all the essentials, they are in agreement. And so if we're corrupting, then the Jews aren't going to be doing the same corruptions as us. And if they're corrupting, we're not doing the same corruptions as them. Therefore, we'd have very different Old Testaments, but we don't. They're pretty much identical. That shows that we've been copying from the same original copy. And that means that when Allah said, and it makes sense of the Quran now, when Allah said, they follow theirs, the Jews follow their Torah, we the Christians follow our New Testament, he's referring to the documents which were all over Byzantium at that time. And what they had then, I've got now.
Do you reckon there's a possibility that there might have been corrupt Bibles in circulation and non-corrupt ones, and that maybe the ones that were available to Muhammad and the Jews in his time and place were actually the real ones, which have subsequently become corrupt?
Okay, if that was so, then they would have been copied from other documents, because obviously it's the 6th century now, and they would have been copied from other documents going way back to the 1st century. No, but that would mean 6 centuries of copies of the good one would have gone missing.
Yeah, after roughly the time that Muhammad came.
Yeah, because you see, at the time of Muhammad, if there were 6 centuries of good copies, which he knew of.
No, I'm saying there was a mixture, so there were some good copies.
Yeah. I'm saying we'd posit this idea. I've got the bad copy, right? I've got the bad copy. It was in existence at the time of Muhammad, but Muhammad or Allah are not referring to those bad copies. He and Allah are referring to the good copies. But if there are good copies that have reached Arabia by the 6th century AD, they're not going to be the originals, they're going to be copies of copies of copies of copies. So there'd be loads of copies for 6 centuries being made. They couldn't all have disappeared. They would have been found by scholars, because if Byzantium's copies are innumerable copies we've got, we'd have innumerable copies of the good ones. It would be strange for Christians or Jews to start going just after these particular ones that Muhammad was referring to and burning them all, and there not be a trace of this. No, what's actually happened is the copies that were in Muhammad's time are the copies we have today. And the fact that we and the Jews are at each other's throats in a way, and we separately operated in our copying, is a boon for Muslims, because they can see there can be no truth to this idea that we corrupted the text. Because you just look at, a Muslim would look at the Jewish version of the text and the Christian version of the text, and they see different corruptions. And they're just not there.
Okay, so then, yeah. All right, well, it's been lovely talking to you.
Same here. And we can knock it about. It's all good fun. I mean, I know it's serious, but it's good to chat.